Hello, and thank you for watching this presentation. Today I'm going to present a part of my PhD research entitled, Is there a bias in the judgment bias test? Differential novelty responses in individuals with different personalities might affect test results. Judgment bias tests have become an important tool in the assessment of animals' affective states. In this test, animals are first trained to discriminate between two highly distinctive cues, one associated with a positive and the other with a less positive or negative outcome. After successfully training, animals are confronted with an intermediate ambiguous cue, and their response, such as latency to approach the reward, are used as judgment bias quantifications. Frequently, the presentation of the ambiguous cue is linked with novelty, such as to yet unexplored areas or areas to which the animal has a low degree of habituation. We hypothesize that in such settings, responses to the ambiguous cue might be biased by the animal's personality, affecting the way individuals perceive novelty. In this sense, the greater the novelty linked to the presentation of the ambiguous cue, the greater the individual perception bias linked to their personality. And so, we aim to investigate how judgment bias parameters are affected by individual differences in a high novelty setting. We conducted a judgment bias test in a 3-armed maze using male mouth-breathing mice previously phenotyped for the exploration tendency. The maze consisted in a positive and less positive rewarded arm. After animals have learned this association, a new ambiguous middle arm was introduced. We calculated the latency to approach and consume the reward for all trials and calculated the relative latency index for each individual during the test phase. We also categorized key exploratory behaviors displayed in the ambiguous arm. During the first day, highlighted in green, when the ambiguous arm is a novel cue, more exploratory individuals display a higher total locomotion and reverse locomotion, indicating intensive exploration of the novel ambiguous arm. This resulted in longer latencies to reach and consume the reward, which was mainly driven by their higher motivation to explore the novel arm. Particularly evident by their higher proportion, not only in the percentage of time, but in frequency of reverse locomotion, resulted in a higher frequency of back and forth movement inside the ambiguous arm. And so, exploratory individuals score a lower latency index as taking longer to approach and consume the reward in the first day. For more exploratory individuals, the longer latencies did not reflect a more negative or pessimist judgment bias, for it's mainly linked to their motivation to explore the new arm. During the following 2 test trials, highlighted in blue, with increasing habituation to the ambiguous arm, this effect disappears. This habituation is further explained by the association between exploration score and latency index throughout the test days. This association is negatively correlated in the first ambiguous trial and inverse associated in the following days, where more exploratory individuals were faster than less exploratory ones in approaching and consuming the reward. And so, these judgment bias results require caution in their interpretation. Individuals with a shorter relative latencies are typically interpreted to show a positive, optimistic judgment, while individuals with a longer latency a more negative, pessimist judgment of an ambiguous situation. However, we conclude that in our study would be flawed to link longer latencies of more exploratory individuals as a negative judgment bias, as they are primarily affected by individuals' perception and response to novelty. With increased habituation to the arm, the results obtained during the 2nd and 3rd days showed a consistent pattern, in line with previous studies in domestic pigs, evoking the question that maybe following test days are the ones that can assess individuals' judgment bias. Our findings show that in the test settings associating ambiguous cue to larger novel areas, results are biased by the individual's personality-dependent conflict of motivation between arm exploration and reaching the reward. We recommend caution in judgment bias interpretation, especially when individuals show inconsistent responses throughout experimental days. Previous habituations to novel setting areas and repeated measures can help avoiding this perception bias. Thank you all for listening to my presentation.